My name is Paul Mescal. I play Lucius in Gladiator II. There was a moment stepping out in kind of gladiator armor where I was like, okay, whoa, this looks like it's gonna happen. That's a harder thing to do when you're aware of the legacy when you're stepping into it. That's obviously a heightened moment. When you're stepping into the armor and you're in front of a mirror, you're like, okay, this is the template of what I have to fill. But it's weirdly seeing the armor and seeing what that outline was, I was like, I've got to fill this now. And that's the job. The scale is huge. The kind of buzz of the film is huge. But if you boil it down, the story is simple and the characters are complicated. And I think it gives an audience a real opportunity to invest. Ultimately, what you want to see is how these complicated characters are navigating this. To my mind, it's a simple story and one that's very relevant in today's day and age.
The movie starts with the Roman Empire led by General Acacius, whom I play, invading Numidia, which is northern Africa, where our lead, played by Paul Mescal, is hiding out. And it's just a perfect way to start the movie. And in my eyes, an incredible homage to how the first movie starts. And Acacius is the general of Rome. He's leading the army into the invasion. What makes the original so memorable and the reason behind it having such major impact, I think, is that it's a classic Hollywood cinema, but with really emotionally rich characters, performances, and storytelling. And there's something very, very grand in scope, elegant, sophisticated, bloody, sexy. It's all the things that really sort of like fill in the word epic.
The power behind the throne is kept by any means necessary. I don't think he was interested in the throne. I think he was interested in power and controlling those two. I don't think he thought they were qualified. I don't think he thinks anyone is better or greater or smarter than him, and I love that. There's a size and a scope that the landscape itself brings, that Malta brings, and Malta is a character in our film. It's beautiful. It's the greenest green I've ever seen. I don't know what they put in the soil, but it's just a beautiful place, beautiful people.
It was successful, and then but it kept growing, and it stayed. It stayed. After a while, I started to think about what one really should think about a sequel, and that we tried 5 years ago, and it defeated us, and then it restarted the engine about 2 years ago, actually. I think 2 years ago. Suddenly had this very simple idea that why not, let's do this, why not follow the demise of Lucius and where he went to, because he was the one living factor from the original film, apart from his mother, Connie, Lucilla. Arthur's like, the expert, by now he's the expert on medieval architecture, medieval Rome, and anything period I tend to jump on. I say, oh, here we go, Arthur, here we go again. But Arthur is, in a way, I was a production designer, and Arthur, to me, is one of the best I've ever worked with, without question.
I play Emperor Gaeta, who is a sadistic, ruthless emperor. He rules Rome alongside his fraternal twin, Emperor Caracalla, played by the brilliant Fred Heckinger, who is as sadistic and unpleasant as his brother. So they're ruling the roost together in a pretty unsavory way. What does it mean to me to be a part of this story? It means a lot. I think I grew up watching the films of Sir Ridley Scott, and the first film was definitely a film that I get misty-eyed over. So to be a part of this world and to venture into this kind of this nostalgic endeavour with Ridley was an extraordinary experience. I was very looking forward to meet Pedro on this film. I was a fan of his and have been for a while. He is heavenly. He's a very funny man. He's very committed, he's very talented, and him and Paul had these kind of very heroic action sequences that they were both committed to.
Hi, my name is Connie Nielsen. I play Lucilla, daughter of Marcus Aurelius in Gladiator II. Pedro Pascal plays Acacius, and I, along with the rest of the world, am of course completely bowled over by how cool, how gorgeous and funny and kind that this man is. Like, just superb. And it was just a very natural fit when we started playing domestic scenes of joy and comfort. And I think just he's an incredible Acacius. She has a love in her life that she never expected to feel. Acacius, a former comrade of Maximus, has not only become her champion, but is the leading general, leader of the army in this quest to continue to expand the empire.
They're both like wicked, but also I think very emotionally vulnerable and needy at the same time. And they both like live for each other and to destroy one another. And so I was really interested in building that with Joe. Like, I felt like we wanted to be independent, but we also are completely a duo.
My name is Leo Raz. I'm playing Vigo, and on Gladiator II. Denzel is one of the best actors in the world, so just to watch him doing what he's doing, even if I'm just standing on the side and to see the process that he's doing with his character is amazing.
My name is Neil Corbold. I'm the special effects supervisor, and the movie I'm working on is Gladiator II. I did a lot of research on the first one, and I was lucky enough that I kept a lot of the research material on a bookshelf in my office. So I just dusted them off and started looking through them. And then when I was going through my reference stuff, I found some old storyboards which were of the Rhino fight. And that day I was going up to see Ridley at Scott Free in London, and I thought I'll just take them up as just to remind him what we didn't shoot on the first one. And at the end of the meeting I said, I've got something to show you, and I showed him these pictures of the Rhino. He says, I want to do that this time now. So that was quite funny.
It felt kind of like a dream to be back in Malta and having just that fact that we just rebuilt the Roman arena. And it was only 5 years ago that we really thought we had an idea that was strong. And we went to work on that seriously. And it evolved. A fantasy was always Denzel Washington, who Ridley had worked with previously. So we got lucky. Denzel liked the character. While he was considering it, Ridley sent him drawings of some of the wardrobe of the character to give him a little sense of the world. And he jumped in.
I'm Harry Gregson Williams, and I'm the composer for Gladiator II. I spoke to Hans. That was the first call I made after Ridley asked me to do the movie, and Hans was really supportive and said, go nail it, and make me proud.
That was my first taste of a Ridley film. First day on set, we were kind of kept in these holding tents, and Ridley comes out, cigar in hand, pats me on the back and goes, your nerves are no good to me. And it was an amazing piece of advice, and one of actually immense care, where he was like, I get that this is huge, but I've hired you to do your job and I trust you to do it. So leave all that things that is ultimately like ego related. Leave it in the tent and come out and do your job. And that was like, he gave me permission to feel like I was able to step into it. And Morocco was kind of a blur. It's a big, huge action sequence at the top of the film that I think is definitely one of the best that Ridley's ever put to film, but also I think it stands up there with kind of any kind of period battle scene that I've ever seen, certainly.
I'm Lucy Fisher, and I'm a producer on Gladiator II. It took a very long time to get a story that we thought would be worthy of being a sequel or following Gladiator. I think there was a lot of trepidation about trying to figure out a path forward that would be equal to the emotionality and the action and everything else of the first one. And we finally came up with an idea that we thought was a worthy sequel idea. We knew it was going to star Lucius because he was alive, because he was alive, and because he would be the right age now to be the hero of the movie.
My name is Michael Pross, and I'm one of the producers on Gladiator. Cassius, played beautifully by Pedro Pascal, is, I would say, one of the most complicated characters in the film, with very, very different agendas, and somebody who emotionally has to give so much of himself to different people to hold not just his family together, but also the stability of Rome.
My name is Arthur Max. I'm production designer on Gladiator II. I think we went to the original sources that we used on the first movie for color and palette, which was mostly 19th century Orientalist painters.
What got me interested in the movie are such big and obvious things. One being Ridley Scott, and two being the first movie. I saw the first movie multiple times in the movie theater when it was released in 2000, wasn't it? And I grew up watching Ridley's movies, and so many. He might be the only director that I can say has multiple films in my top 10, and I'd be in anything under his lens.
My name is Joan T. Yates. I'm the civilian costume designer on Gladiator II, directed by Sir Ridley Scott. I certainly did a lot of new research. The original scripts had periods in Egypt, in Carthage, and there was even Babylon, so it was a lot of new research. There's nothing better than just walking through Rome. And of course we rent a lot from the wonderful Roman costume houses, because they have the original costumes from all the Ben-Hurs and the, just beautiful embroidery. Can't get that done easily now. And so you just wander through Rome, and Trajan's column tells you nearly everything you need to know on military, that's for sure.
Ridley Scott's the king of cinema, and especially this genre. He's so beloved. I mean, it's a total pinch yourself moment. If Ridley comes knocking, you just say yes, and to have worked as closely with him on this is one of those, definitely changed my life. One, it's definitely been a career highlight for me, just to kind of see the way a master's brain works. He was incredibly generous with me and his talent, and sharing his knowledge with me, and just an absolutely mad experience. The first Gladiator obviously holds a huge amount of weight for not just myself, but like a huge amount of people across the world. So it's not lost on me what we as a cast of actors and Ridley are stepping in. It was a different approach for me than any of the other roles that I've played previously. There was a big focus on the physical preparation for this. But there's something interesting in this film where the story is actually very simple. It follows a template of kind of a hero versus villain's story and arc, and how they come into conflict. But what's interesting about this is that the characters are very complicated, and within a simple story, their kind of complexities are allowed to develop at a pace that I think is satisfying for an audience. So for me, the psychology of Lucius was very clear from the first time that I read it. But the big preparation for me was kind of scale of performance. And I think having Ridley at the center of it, whose only interest is the talent for which he hired us as actors. That's what he wants. And you've got to kind of remove your ego and leave it at the door and kind of just step into it. Lucius is the son of Lucilla. We meet him at the start of the film in Numidia, which is in present-day terms is North Africa. And the film kind of opens with an invasion of the Roman army into Numidia. That sequence is absolutely insane. We kind of see him dragged back into Rome. He has a intense dislike and anger towards what Rome in that context represents. And that's kind of that's where we meet him at the start of the film.
The movie starts with the Roman Empire led by General Acacius, whom I play, invading Numidia, which is northern Africa, where our lead, played by Paul Mescal, is hiding out. And it's just a perfect way to start the movie. And in my eyes, an incredible homage to how the first movie starts. And Acacius is the general of Rome. He's leading the army into the invasion. What makes the original so memorable, and the reason behind it having such major impact, I think, is that it's a classic Hollywood cinema, but with really emotionally rich characters, performances, and storytelling. And there's something very, very grand in scope, elegant, sophisticated, bloody, sexy. It's all the things that really sort of like fill in the word epic. What got me interested in the movie are such big and obvious things. One being Ridley Scott, and two being the first movie. I saw the first movie multiple times in the movie theater when it was released in 2000, wasn't it? And I grew up watching Ridley's movies, and so many. He might be the only director that I can say has multiple films in my top 10, and I'd be in anything under his lens.
It's exactly why you want to go to the movies. You want to be transported, and you want to be taken to another time and place that you could never go to in real life any other way. And this is like a passport to another world, and there's no way not to lose yourself in this movie because it's so big and it's so massive and it's so all-encompassing. The scale of the movie was so massive, it wasn't like anything we'd ever seen before, even in terms of comparing it to the first movie, just the amount of people involved. I asked how many tents we had for hair and makeup in Morocco, and the number was 80. Huge tents just to do the extras hair and makeup. So I have only 2 words for how we did everything, and it is how we did everything, and those 2 words are Ridley Scott.
Well, when you're put out into the woods by your mother to say, go with this man, he will look after you, you're sending him into the wilderness where you will eventually, within a day or 2, lose track of him completely forever. So there's that to it. Then he turned up one day, years, months later. When you live off the desert by yourself, you become a toughened entity yourself, you become independent. So in a way, that's his education. So by the time he's a teen, he can really look after himself. So by the time he settles in, wanders into the walls of Numidia, no one has any idea he's a prince of Rome. He involves himself in the most likely thing to do, to join the army. The only problem is with him is he's reddish hair and blue eye. So he's a stranger in a strange land. That's where we find him.
I think this is the biggest film I've been on. It's big, it's huge, it's, Cecil B. DeMille on steroids. It's huge. He's not gonna have 100 guys, he's gonna have 1,000 of them. He's not gonna have 20 horses, he's gonna have 20 scores. It's just, makes the job easy. Everywhere you turn, you feel like you're in that world. It was all a spectacle, just the size of the damn Coliseum. I was like, they built the Coliseum. When people say, what do you want people to get from a film? I say, it depends upon what they bring to it. In this case, don't overthink it. Don't bring anything. Bring some popcorn and whatever your favorite beverage is, and just enjoy. It's a ride, it's a spectacle, it's on a grand scale. I don't want to say movies aren't made like this anymore, I don't know, but just riding past what look like thousands of soldiers and the beautiful costumes and the colors and the swords and the shields and the horses and just all of it. It's more than a movie for me.
Connie Nielsen brought a very valuable thing amongst all of this madness, which was experience. None of us had been through this experience before, and Connie brilliantly played Lucilla in the first film, so she was able to kind of be a little bit of a mast in the storm that we found ourselves in. She gave us some perspective, some guidance, and and took us on a boat. What was it like working with Sir Ridley Scott? It was pretty extraordinary. I grew up watching his films. The range of his filmography is incredible. There's such range in his work, and his ability to kind of create these worlds, these diverse worlds, and take you on a journey with him is pretty extraordinary. There's an energy on a Ridley Scott set that is fascinating, it's thrilling, it's unnerving, and unique. It's rare that cinema can hit that sweet spot in the way that the first film did, and it was something that we were all very aware of on this film, the fact that there was such a legacy to follow up on, and it was one that we took pretty seriously as well, very seriously.
Getting back, working with Ridley, experiencing how Ridley, has at this point even more technology at his fingertips than he had 24 years ago. And I've always admired how Ridley uses these very classical storytelling devices and at the same time really incorporates whatever technology is available to us right then, right there. And obviously technology has really evolved a lot in filmmaking, and he is right up to speed. He has just, if anything, amped up the spectacle even more. And he just has an extraordinary team, as always, with him. I could not believe this story they came up with. It was so brilliant, and I just thought that is a fantastic situation for me as a character to be in. And it's also something that once again really, really speaks to a kind of deep human experience. In my case, motherhood, and again, sacrifice. And this extraordinary thing of having to sacrifice something that is the most important thing in your life. And I just felt that that was such a compelling story to be a part of and to play.
Because we wanted to do the naval battle, the Colosseum theatrical battle in it, we were going to fill it with water. So in that sense, we raised up the foundation about 5 feet, about 1.5 meters, to accommodate the water level, so that we could still see what we wanted to see above the waterline when we flooded it, as well as in the actual tank, where we built a partial reconstruction of the Colosseum Emperor's box and some tiered seating either side. So that would be appropriately above the water level. And we also enlarged the entry arch from the original, so we could bring the ships in through the gates.
These brothers are weird mirrors. They're completely different, but they're always surveilling what the other one is doing. So there's a constant sense of competition, but also love and need for being taken care of. They built the Colosseum. They built it in the same place they built it the first time, except 25% larger. What Denzel does in this movie is masterful. You're seeing an artist who always operates the highest caliber, who never does not entertain and never does not show you truth.
I've worked with Ridley on quite a few movies. It's probably 8 or 9 movies since Gladiator. So I sort of know the way his brain works to a certain extent. So, you know, and I know what his standards are and the quality of work that he wants. So, you know, from all those experiences I've had with him, I have a pretty good idea of what he's looking for. One of the things that Ridley threw at me on this is he wanted to do the opening battle in Morocco. And Ridley said, I want these boats, I want these 250-foot long Roman galleons going towards the wall. It's going to do a siege battle on the wall, but there's no water there. So but that for me is you know, it gets the juices flowing and the brain ticking over. And I managed to find these fantastic plant movers from Spain, which are these like 20 axle, all rotating bases that move like oil rigs around, and they all bolt together. And you know, I went into him with the concept and showed him what we could do. Because normally you just stick them on a track and you could just go on one plane, just go in and out. But with these, you could go anywhere you like. So you could set the shot up, you know, how he wanted to do it and not be tied into where the ships were, which was quite amazing.
I think every day when I came to set, I was amazed from the details and how huge it is and how much effort they put in every single props that you see. I'm telling you, it was one of the biggest films that I was in, and to see that and to see everything, it's like to go back to the Roman Empire. So for me to see it with the wardrobe and the art and the design, it was, and how huge it is. I think to watch Ridley working, for me, was the best thing that happened to me on this set. To see how he creates a movie from a script and how he controls everything and how he's very open-minded to his actors, how he works with his actors, and he's just like a maestro who's we have this huge orchestra and he knows exactly what everyone is doing in every second.
I think in terms of spectacle, the naval battle in the arena may be the most mind-blowing. And also there's some very exciting story elements in it. But the combination of the naval battle, Lucius firing an arrow from the ship at Acacius in the stands, soldiers, gladiators falling into the water, attacked by sharks, that's a lot. So that will really be fun to watch with an audience.
The main character, Lucius, is very intriguing, and obviously he's the central character in this movie, but some of the peripheral characters, Denzel Washington's character, Macronus, was most unexpected when I read the script. And I was really excited to write music around his scenes. Yeah, Ridley is usually quite an open book when it comes to music. He doesn't send me down a path and allows me some freedom to experiment. So that's what we did.
Within the film, we have what I call a great, powerful revenge engine, but this film also brings in a lot of layers of Rome that we didn't see in the first film. It adds to them. The Senate, what is happening in Rome, the politics. In this film, you'll see Rome is a very different place than it was in the first film. So we've added dimension to that, and I think with great effect, and there is nobody better to dramatize these scenes than Ridley. We've also added characters that are surprising here. We have Macrinus, played by the great Denzel Washington, who brings a unique sense of mystery and intrigue and defiance to Rome. We've also come back to great characters from the original film. Lucilla, played by the legendary Connie Nielsen, an absolute honor to be working with her, and these things are beautifully tied together from film one to our current picture.
My name is Alexander Karim. I play Ravi in Gladiator II. I think that especially if you're from my generation, the original film had an extreme impact on your life. And obviously then hearing that Ridley's going to do it, knowing that he's going to revisit the story, and I'd heard obviously that he'd been, thinking about it for so many years, and so it's just a beautiful opportunity to be part of something historical.
Oh, it was so exciting. It was glorious to do because it's the most wonderful period to fashion concept, really. And so we had some great ideas for this new one. And it's a marvellous era to work in. And you can fit all sorts under a tunic and a toga.
I think location is everything, especially when it comes to telling a story. And if you can have the real thing, it really makes a difference, or at least the kind of area in the world that Malta provides as far as the sets of Gladiator are concerned, the size of this Colosseum. I've been on some major sets, and I've not been on a set like this one. I didn't think I could see something bigger than some of the things that I've seen, and this is definitely the biggest. In movies like this one, I think that, the important departments of costume design, hair and makeup tell as much of the story as do the words on the page and the performances of the actors. I wouldn't have a character if it weren't for what I was wearing and how it looked. It is the best I've ever looked. It's just like the highest talent out there, and yet still giving the space to collaborate and to kind of fit the design to each individual character. There are so many important ways to thread this sequel to its original source. And the best way to do that, I think, is with Lucilla's character and her son, Lucius. And Acacius really serves Lucilla first, and the Roman Empire second. He's a soldier, not a politician, as he states often in the movie. And so he knows who to honor and to protect that with his life.
Connie Nielsen's like a wonderful human being. She plays my mother in the film. She's got a kind of wonderful dexterity with films of this scale, knows her way around them in a way that I thought was really interesting to watch her work. She is the emotional heartbeat of the film. She's the person who has the most information for the characters' lives in the film, and I just think it's a wonderfully elegant performance. Pedro's one of my good friends now, and what you see is what you get with him. He's got an amazing capacity of retaining the version of the human being that he is behind closed doors with the world, and I think that's a particular skill that I'm envious of in the way that he conducts himself. He's hilarious. He's an incredibly talented actor, and as a fan of his work, I'm just really excited for people to see what he does in this film. Yeah, it's quite extraordinary. Denzel is one of the greatest actors to ever walk planet Earth. His performance in this is so unbelievably colorful. Him and Ridley together working on something with the amount of films that they've shot. But the thing that I keep being struck by is how you read certain scenes that he played and you look at them on the page, and then what he delivers on the day is so unbelievably playful and colorful and dynamic. And again, it ties back to the fact that he's just been there and done that, and knows how to navigate character in a way that if I could, I mean this sincerely, if I could scratch the surface of that in 20 years' time, I'd be incredibly lucky and grateful. Things that we see in the film in terms of like flooding the Colosseum, wild animals, all of those things, when I first read the script, I was like, this feels fictitious. And then reading up about it, it's like all of these things happened. It was like the greatest show on earth, the production values and what the Roman emperors put into these things, because they weren't just games, they were these celebrations and they were these offerings to the gods. But all of the things that you see in the film, it's recorded that it happened.
Ridley's a genius, and he's a visionary. I mean, what he sees and how he puts it together, and his team, you know, I don't have to think or worry about anything. Just put the gear on and do my part. Malta is a character. The way the stone walls, and you can just get in the character riding to work. You can feel the history here, and it was the perfect place to shoot. And I'm glad that I came here, and the people are even more beautiful than the island itself.
I think more important than good actor is to have a good personality. And I think Paul has them both. He's an amazing actor and he has a great personality. I felt at home with him, so it was really great, and I love his work. I've seen the movies that he was in and the TV shows, and he was really good there, and he was amazing here, and he's a good guy. Vigo is the trainer of gladiators in the farm of Macrinus, played by Denzel, Washington. So I'm training them, and I'm taking them to the fights and talking about what is it to be a gladiator, and escorting them all the way. And this is Vigo. He's a very tough guy. He was a gladiator himself.
Denzel said, "You really want me? Okay, boom, that's it." And Denzel, I draw a lot. I can really draw. And so my drawing is my textbook. And so I tend to draw every film I do as storyboards. They're not stick figures. Every film I do is like a detailed comic. I literally will draw every scene. So I already started to draw Denzel how I saw him. So I tend to cast people. I usually have a physical type in my head. And when you're drawing, you're already starting to see people in the role. And so my drawing is more than my sketchbook, it's my plan. It's my blueprint.
The dynamic between Gator and Caracalla is pretty fraught. I think there's a lot of competition and a lot of stress and disappointment, codependence and fear, and the fact that they are mutually kind of beholden and need each other in this kind of extraordinary situation that they're in. They're totally unqualified and adolescent and distrusting of everyone around them, and I think that it's a very interesting kind of dynamic to play, and I was very lucky in the scene partner I had in Fred. He's an extraordinary actor and brilliant person. Emperor Gator is motivated by neuroses, fear of losing power, greed, all traits in leaders that are pretty deplorable, and he is one of those characters that is full of insecurity, lacks integrity, but has an enormous amount of power, which is a dangerous combination. Working with Paul was fantastic. He was so committed straight from the off. It was very clear that he wasn't there to mess around at all, but also not to take it too seriously. He was putting in the work for months with stunt training and was totally committed, and it was very inspiring just watching his level of dedication His leadership, he leads this film extraordinarily well. I can't wait for people to see him.
Lucilla is living this nightmare where she does not know if her child is still alive. And she just, like any mother would, just yearns for that one thing that she loves more than anything else in the whole world. But she has had, out of duty, she's had to choose to let go of him so that she could stay behind and try to fight to save Rome, instead of following her heart and going with her child to keep him safe. She has a love in her life that she never expected to feel. Acacius, a former comrade of Maximus, has not only become her champion, but is the leading general, leader of the army in this quest to continue to expand the empire. To Lucilla, power is something that you can only use in the name of the people, and only if the people has given that action legitimacy. But to Macrinus, power is something to do with his own ego. It has something to do with how to feel powerful over everyone, and something that therefore is consumed only by him and not in the name of the collective.
Joseph Quinn is a beautiful actor. He's just remarkably present and deep and inspired. When Joe and I were working on the scenes, it felt like we were trying to hold some empire together. You know, we really thought about this, at first at least, as a double act. So working with him was just a great pleasure. He's playing a really complicated, wretched, scary, strange, funny, beautiful person. And he's playing that person with full commitment at all times.
I would like audience to look at Gladiator II and be taken on another journey like the first one took them on a journey, and enjoy it, embrace it as they did the first one. Ridley wanted the rhino fight that he wanted in the first one but never got, so that was interesting. And that was a collaboration between myself and Connor O'Sullivan, the prosthetics supervisor. So we built a mechanical base and also we did the mechanics for the rhino. We had a certain amount of rehearsal, but a lot of it was just made up on the day. And we were practicing as we were shooting, so that was quite an amazing few days.
Once Paul started the movie, we continued to be amazed, and his instincts for what's true in the scene are remarkable for a young man. And he became, as a great actor is, the kind of custodian of his character Lucius. And he protected Lucius, and we all learned to trust his gut. From the beginning, as we started to talk about Lucius, the only kid in the first movie, as the likely protagonist for a sequel, we knew he was Lucilla's son. That makes him the grandson of Marcus Aurelius. And as we started to talk about his parentage, I mean, the spiritual father of the first movie is obviously Maximus. So everyone was interested in the idea that Lucius would discover that he's actually Maximus's son. And instead of some hack politician, which is what he feared, he would find out that he was connected to a hero and a man of a higher calling, which is what Lucius will slowly become himself.
I've had a great time scoring this movie. I never dreamt that I would have an opportunity to do a Gladiator. I've worked a lot with Ridley Scott. He did warn me this was coming down the pipe. But it's been great fun. The naval battle was a hell of a lot of fun to write for. And the very end of the movie is the climax of the movie. Big and bold and brassy.
You see a very conniving guy, and luckily with the actor that we have, lucky enough to have, Denzel Washington, he brings such dimension and such personality to this guy that as much as you may want to hate him, you never quite can, because he's so charming and funny and charismatic.
Acacius, played beautifully by Pedro Pascal, is, I would say, one of the most complicated characters in the film, with very, very different agendas, and somebody who emotionally has to give so much of himself to different people to hold not just his family together, but also the stability of Rome. This movie is huge, and it is epic, and it could only have been pulled off by a director like Ridley Scott. There is no better director working for this genre, this spectacle, this level of epic quality than Ridley Scott. I was awed by the size, the scope of what Ridley and the filmmaking team had pulled off. Arthur Max, obviously, our extraordinary production designer. And it's overwhelming, but in the best way. And that is the beauty of cinema. It's the magic of what we do. And frankly, you know, it's one of the most exhilarating experiences of life. Fred Heschinger and Joe Quinn, who play Emperor Caracalla and Emperor Gaeta, are what I would call both intuitive actors, and they work really well individually, and they work really well together.
Paul it's unbelievable when you see someone, because he's much younger than I am, but you see someone who has this enormous responsibility of carrying this whole film on his shoulders, and he does it. You can tell that he's ultra prepared, obviously, but he does it with ease and with grace. The character needs to be someone who has that real broad palette of emotions, and the ultra strong and the strength of Lucius, the physicality of Lucius. But he also has to draw you in as someone you feel for, because he's, at the end of the day, it's a little kid who got abandoned by his parents, in his mind.
The origins are still intact, and some of the characters come back, you know, and the spaces are familiar. The scale has grown though quite a lot. It's sort of like Gladiator on steroids in terms of scale. We did an aerial drone topographical survey of the site, which we were never able to do before. So we built a physical model of the topography of the Rome site in 3D, and then started to populate it with buildings in miniature, and tried to do a layout. And from that layout, we did plans, architectural scale drawings, which we then used to develop concept art.
The emperors, they were a joy to do. I mean, so wonderful to do these young boys. They're both in their 20s. They're both completely mad, and they have red hair. And we were just, you know, we were just dressing them out there, like as far out as we could go, but using fabulous fabrics, using lots of embroidery, using just wonderful gold on gold, silver on silver, ancient embroidery, the ancient, not saris, but ancient Indian embroideries. When we started creating for Denzel Washington, Ridley was very inspired by the Orientalist painters of the 19th century, the Moorish influence that came with the Orientalists. And so we did a sort of split Roman, because as Denzel said, he didn't want to be different when he was trying to ingratiate himself with the emperors. So he started off more Moorish, as it were.
The kind of neuroses with which Joe plays his emperor is incredibly interesting when you balance that with Fred's kind of true madness. Like Fred's like actually more mentally unwell, and Joe's more neurotic. And I think it's a really clever choice that they both that they both made, and I think we're definitely all, the three of us in particular, are pinching ourselves in terms of having access to the actors that we have around us in terms of experience, and then King Ridley at the top just calling the shots. It's like something that isn't lost on us. Maximus is such an unbelievably iconic character, and I think when you see Lucius throughout the start of the film and you don't have this information yet, that the minute that reveal is made, it suddenly makes sense that this character in Lucius is a born survivor because of who his father is. It's in his blood. What are the things that we inherit from our parents? And this film just dials it up to 100 in the fact that Maximus is just a born survivor, and that's probably one of the main questions that an audience will have for Lucius, is like, how does he manage to survive this level of violence? And I think it's because of who his father is. You're looking at like Arthur Max, John T. Yates, Dave Grossman, Iana and Giuliano. Like, you're dealing with department heads here who are at the top of their game and who've worked with Ridley kind of religiously through the years. Having seen the film, you really see the detail of those department heads, and it's mastery. Like, you look at what they've all done in their individualized kind of disciplines, and it's like, it's top end production design, hair and makeup, costume design. Like, just profoundly lucky to work with people of that talent. Lucius is the son of Lucilla. We meet him at the start of the film in Numidia, which is, in present day terms, is North Africa. And the film kind of opens with an invasion of the Roman army into Numidia. That sequence is absolutely insane. We kind of see him dragged back into Rome. He has a intense dislike and anger towards what Rome in that context represents, and that's kind of that's where we meet him at the start of the film.
Connie Nielsen, to me, is iconic in the role of Lucilla in the first movie, and if I'm being honest, totally my favorite character. I find her to be the most complex, and I've been having conversations with her from the perspective of Acacius, but also just from my personal opinion. I'm like, I think that she's the smartest person in the room, and was so, and has found all of these complex ways to navigate her existence in a world of men, and to survive. And so I just love that, and I feel like, again, there isn't anybody like her who can fill those shoes within this world. There are so many reasons behind wanting to be in this movie, and one of them is Paul Mescal. I think as this younger generation of actors emerges, I would definitely make him the lead of my movie. It's an incredible challenge to sort of step into a role like Lucius because of how memorable the first movie is. And if there's anybody that could do it, it's Paul. And I think that what he brings to it is incredible talent, an incredible athleticism, and he's a babe. Those are the only three things you need.
First of all, he's a wonderful young man. And one of the things he brings is that he's a consummate professional. He's obviously very talented, very humble, and the sky's the limit for him. I mean, it was almost a bit of a proud father kind of thing for me, just watching him do his thing, and he was saying to me today how he had to keep a straight face and and all of that, and he's just a wonderful actor, a wonderful human being, and quite talented. And like I said, the sky's the limit for him. Credit to Ridley, he really put a wonderful cast together. He painted the canvas. There's all types of people and talents, and it seemed like the the whole was bigger than any of us individuals.
She has been a survivor because she is such a blue blood, probably the bluest in Roman history, being the daughter of Marcus Aurelius. So when a son comes on in the arena with a beard and with long hair, there's no way she's going to recognize Lucius. It's only the habits that ring a bell with her that can be in the DNA from the father, Maximus, whose habit was to pick up dirt before he fought, because in that earth you may die. Music to me is language, and it's the final dialogue, and you're writing a new language which is appropriate for the film and gives the film that added dynamic as and when you may need it, right? And sometimes silence is music. To say, I don't want music, this is silent here. Silence is music. It's a statement, a sound statement.
What was it like working with Denzel Washington? Well, it's not every day that you see an actor in that echelon at work. I've been a fan of his since I was a kid. I grew up watching his films, and the prospect of sharing a frame with him was pretty crazy. And he was consummate, professional, listened, had ideas, and he's Denzel Washington, so like you say that he's a good actor feels like banal. It's rare that you get to go to a place like Malta that has this world built there that is championed by a very seasoned and brilliant director and visionary director with a cast as exciting, fresh, but also experienced as this, with Denzel Washington, Paul Mescal, Fred Heckinger, Connie Nielsen. They were extraordinary scene partners and wonderful people to spend time with. It doesn't always happen like that. So it's an experience that's changed me as a person, I think, to kind of have a look at it and to bear witness to something as just the scale of it. You can't really put into words. The size and scope of Gladiator 2 is pretty difficult to put into words. I've never seen anything like it. I don't think I'll see anything like it again. We had 25,000 extras, kind of a horde of horses and stunt performers, set builds like you've never seen before, and some fight sequences that I'd kind of boggle the mind. It's a scale that demands to be seen in a theatre. It demands to be seen with people, and I can't wait for people to see it.
I remember the first time I saw Paul's work, and I was just so blown away with his performance. So I was excited to see what he would bring to this troubled kid, to Lucius, who is a troubled young man who now has to figure out how to step up, step out of your rage and step into your duty, into your future. How will you do that? And so I knew this was going to be amazing. I am just loving being here. I feel such gratitude to have, you know, this option, this opportunity to continue to tell these big stories. These stories that can both touch people's hearts and make them and their experiences feel seen, and then at the same time to entertain people and for a moment give them something else to think about. And to be able to, in this day and age, create films at this scale is, I don't know, I feel so blessed.
Filming this was like a gladiatorial arena. The way the camera crew is working is like that of warring gladiators. You have 8 cameras that are competing for the shots, and they're trying to make sure they're not in each other's frames, and they're hiding in the masses of people with cloaks on and cameras behind them to try and get the right shot. And you realize it's like the cameras are attacking one another. The entire thing is this full-on war of what is the most exciting thing, what is the biggest, most convincing, insane thing that could happen on screen right now. It's an incredible cast. It's an extraordinary group.
I think there's a couple of sequences that I'm really excited to see, and that's the opening battle with the Roman warships coming in to the siege, and the Colosseum battle, naval battle as well. And there's a rhino battle as well, and then there's a baboon battle. So there's quite a few scenes that I'm really looking forward to seeing. You know, I always like when the visual effects supervisor embraces special effects. It's better for the actors, it's better for Ridley, if something's there. And you know, a lot of the time we use the practical effects that we've done, and visual effects enhance them. You know, the sheer scale for, you know, Ridley doesn't like using blue screens too much, and he'll shoot into an area where there's things, trucks in the way or whatever. But you know, Mark's great to where he would just work around it.
To work with Ridley, it's a dream come true. It doesn't matter what is the role, and yeah, it was an amazing project, and the people are amazing, very professional, huge production. The Maltese production was amazing, and all the other producers. Listen, it's to come and to be part of I think one of the biggest movies ever done. To work with a legend. So everything that he's doing and everything that he's saying and how he behave on set and how he deal with all those cameras that he's putting on in every scene, like 8 cameras in a scene, first time in my life that I've seen it. And how he control this huge set. It's a masterclass of directing and leading and commanding, and just to see him was an inspiration for me. And also it's a huge honor to working with this amazing director, one of the best directors in the world.
One of the real questions for us is, why is this young character Lucius going to be so formidable in the arena? With Lucius, we set up that he had a troubled background. He had been lost in Numidia, separated from his family, on the run, so he could be fierce. The best explanation for his success in the arena was his rage. And Macrinus prides himself on his ability to pick gladiators. And what he articulates in the movie is he looks for a rage, and a rage that will both fuel this gladiator's wins, but also speak to people in the arena. They'll see his fierceness and they'll relate to it. Lucilla was a critical character for the movie. She's continuity with the first one. She's our connection to Maximus, to her father, Marcus Aurelius. And we imagined the heart of the movie, as always, as a mother-son story. Connie was great in the first movie. She made a real impression on a generation of young women who were always writing to her, considered her kind of an activist in Rome. And so we went to her very early on.
Ridley's very encouraging. He speaks to me in a specific sort of language. He's not speaking to me in musical terms, but his movies are like pieces of artwork. I mean, if you freeze frame any Ridley Scott movie anywhere, pretty much, there's this beautiful image. So visually, he knows exactly what he's doing. So with music, he knows what the power of music can be and how much it can contribute to the experience of watching the movie. He's an artist, first of all, personally, enjoys painting. So he'll talk to me about light and darkness, shade, texture. And those are all words that we use in music.
He has, enormous screen presence, and he has the sensitivity and the vulnerability. But what we were really curious to see is, would he have the fighting spirit to be a gladiator too? And the more we talked to him, the deeper we fell in love with the idea of him playing that character. And obviously when Ridley met him, he felt exactly the same way, which was we really didn't have to look further. The first day he shot, he didn't speak. There were just reaction shots of him And it's where you kind of know somebody is really a movie star. He didn't speak, and yet you couldn't take your eyes off of him. So that's Denzel Washington, is he doesn't even have to talk, and you're riveted.
Gladiator is a huge cinematic experience for audiences. This is a film that you can watch and enjoy on its own terms and on its own merits. The scale of the filmmaking, the epic themes, the incredible battle sequences, this is what cinema is about. Paul Mescal is not just one of the best young working actors in the world right now, he's also one of the nicest men. I think immediately when Ridley and all of the filmmaking team met Paul, we realized there was just something extraordinary about him. I think audiences are going to absolutely be blown away by what they see in the Colosseum. Flooding, boats, archers, arrows, and maybe something even more disturbing going on in the water.
Well, I am sort of Lucius's friend and his ally in trying to fulfill his destiny. I realize along the way that there's more to this Lucius character than meets the eye. And I also realize that he has a history here, and I sort of try to get him to see more of the history, see more of who Maximus was and what happened 20 years earlier. And just once he's on his mission, once he knows what his mission is, I'm his ally, trying to help him see it through.
You know, I've been working with a really long time, so there's not a lot of long-winded discussions. It's like pretty shorthand, and what he said to me, I think, which was most significant, was we're going to go for scale on this one, which I took to mean we're going to build everything bigger than we had done in the first place, which was very big to start with. Ridley, I mean, he's a whole approach to the art form. He's involved in every phase, every department, yet he's a collaborator. So he's kept up to date with all the technologies as it's evolved. He's a stylist, he's a visualist. He has a background in fine arts. He was a production designer himself, so you can't get away with anything. He knows all of our tricks. There's a great giant puzzle, which is another of Ridley's favorite games, is to puzzle, you know, the movie together from various diverse locations, and within those locations, various spaces and chambers, and combine them in, you know, very clever and cunning ways.
Yeah, I think the ones that are behind me, I love. 2 of Denzel Washington's, who plays Macrinus, and 2 of Connie Nielsen's, who plays Lucilla. And basically, I just love them. I love all of them, to be honest. I love all my emperors as well. It's just sensational, just wonderful. From the research down to the making, and then, of course, fitting. That's always quite nerve-wracking, and you're not quite sure if you're going down the right route. And then showing Ridley, and then actually seeing them on set. It's all quite nerve-wracking, the whole thing, always quite nerve-wracking, but so satisfying at the end, so satisfying.